Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm back again, Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory. This month, we're excited because we're really going over one of our core values, which is more cowbell. That might sound a little strange to some people. To others, they're like, yeah, I can get on board with that. Some of us that are a little bit older might remember the scene from SNL, the cowbell. Yeah, so my guest, before I introduce him, remembers that as well. I mean, it's all about, for us internally, why we have that core value is we want to be enthusiastic, we want to be positive, we want to be optimistic in everybody that we're working with. We really want to exude joy and a sense of harmony and humor. And more importantly, and we're going to get into it today with our guest, where one wins, we all win. We celebrate with each other out of an abundance of heart. And with that, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to introduce my guest, Matt Meiers. He said the founder of So Many Angels. And I'm going to let Matt, thanks for coming on here. And we're just going to jump right into it because you'll do a better job of describing what you do. I'm all on board. I think it's great. I get excited when I see the works that you do. So why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers what it is, So Many Angels. What do you do?
First of all, thank you so much for having us on. For what we do, the simplified version is we take photos of kids with cancer, basically against a green screen or a plain backdrop, and we transform them into whatever they want to be when they grow up. And that when they grow up is some of these kids are not going to grow up, but we want to instill in them and their families that hope. There is hope for so many of these kids, and we want these pictures to inspire the kids, the families, and everybody who looks at them. These kids want to be superheroes, princesses. Some of the kids want to be doctors, nurses, because these are the people that are treating them. These are the people that they interact with a lot. And when you get a 4-year-old girl who, not to go deep fast, but we're going deep fast, she was dressed like a doctor, and she had this beautiful bald head, and she was dressed like a doctor. She had her little baby. And after the first 2 pictures, she reaches into her pocket and she takes out a toy syringe. And she starts giving her baby chemo. And I'm behind the camera and I'm bawling because this is her normal. This is her normal. To me, that's not normal. And it should not be normal. But that's these kids' normal. So what we try to do at So Many Angels is we try to give these kids a normal, even if it's just for that 15 or 20 minutes during the photo sessions. And one of the things I really like to do during the sessions is when the kids either, maybe they're changing clothes or just standing there, readjusting things, and we're posing them. I like to take a look back at the parents, at mom or dad, and it's almost like you can see this little weight lifted or huge weight lifted off their shoulders, like they're actually watching their kid be a kid instead of sick Johnny, sick Becky. It's their kids being a normal kid for a change. And they don't get to see that a whole lot. And if that's something that we can do, kind of what I say, just by taking pictures, we're pressing a button. And how can I not do this when I see the joy that these families get when one of the things that we've not been able to do is photograph kids during the pandemic. We haven't photographed anybody since the end of February. The past 2 days, I've reached out to a couple families that we have done. One thing I forgot to mention, we give the families a canvas print of that final edit. And that's some of the ones you see behind me. I forgot to mention, one of the girls wanted to be Wednesday Addams. So I'm going to get this. Hey, I got it right for a change. It's over this shoulder there. And when she told us that, we were like, oh my God, that's great. We love the princesses and the superheroes, but when they do something, totally off the wall that is coming from them, when they are excited about it, it pumps us up even more. we're ready to go with whatever the kids want to be. But I've spoken to a couple of the families. We've done a couple of edits for families of kids who have passed away already that we have not been able to photograph. And since the pandemic, we've been trying to figure out ways to keep so many angels in people's minds, in people's social media feeds. And one of the things we're going to start doing is offering digital renderings, digital photos with that same canvas, with artists who can paint digitally and just create from snapshots or pictures from what these families have. And one of the families I spoke to, the dad told me one time he just fears that his son will be forgotten. Mm. And photos, it's my regular photography work. That's why a lot of photographers want you to print those albums, want you to get those canvas and those metal prints on the wall. Because if I give you that little memory stick, it's going in your drawer. If I give you that, used to be a DVD, but see, that's how times change. You couldn't print from a DVD or one of the old 3.5 floppies or whatever the heck they had before. That's why we want you to print that, because you told me to go, I'm going. So Kyle, we did him as he's up there, and he's a Star Wars character. And he's, I think, 15 now, just turned 15 or 14. And his mom walked into his room one day, and he had a canvas. He had his canvas that he was holding and looking at. And she said, "What's up, bud?" He goes, "This picture just really inspires me. Oh. And I hope that I can inspire kids like me." Oh, wow. When I get old. And I'm thinking, this kid is 14 years old, and he's thinking these thoughts. He's gone through so much that nobody should go through, and he's 14. And there's kids younger than that have gone through that and worse. And we are one of those charities it's sometimes hard to talk about. When Sarah McLachlan's song comes on TV with the animals, we change the channel. It's hard to watch. I know that's part of it, but it's hard to watch that. And you just want to tune it out that, so many of these kids are facing these, and with the masks right now, not getting political, but these masks are an everyday thing for these kids, because the medication, the treatments they go through, the protocols, it kind of destroys sometimes their immune system. So they've been doing this mask thing. These 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds do the mask pretty well, because if they don't, they could die from it.
It just makes me wonder how much we complain about the things that are going on now, and I'm just as guilty. I mean, I
am too. Yeah,
I want to be out and about, and yeah, it's a little bit abnormal, but you mentioned with these kids, and maybe these kids can just inspire some of us adults right now. I don't know if you have another story about another child. I see one there. It looks like he's maybe with his dad.
Oh, okay. Nolan. Yeah, that's actually his grandfather. And we did a photo shoot in Pensacola. A lot of the photo sessions that we do, it's when I travel for photography conferences. So I'll reach out before we go to that city. I know I'm going to that city for a conference, and we'll reach out to other nonprofits who already have these kids with cancer in their system, and they can help us schedule, and they can be there to check the families in, and it makes it easier for everybody around. The families are more comfortable with the people they already know, so we're not just saying, "Hey, we're your photographer, here's a camera in your face, do something funny," because that's not what we do. But Nolan's grandfather passed away the week before the photo session, and he really loved him, and he was going to go fishing with him and golfing with him this year. I think golfing, not fishing. And so we had Nolan, his mom was, she was really bummed out because her dad passed away, but she wanted to do this thing for Nolan. So we posed Nolan's mom with him, and we basically had mom facing away from the camera, and Nolan, we said, "Hey, look back real quick." He looks back, we snapped that picture, and that's what you see is it's looking back. It might look like he's taking him off into the sunset, which that's not what we really want. it's just that's his happy spot, and that's where his grandfather's happy spot would have been.
Hmm.
So we were able to go through some pictures that mom already had, and the the Photoshop artists, the digital artists that we work with, they are so good and they're so creative that we kind of just say, look, here's this kid's story, here's the family story, do what you do. I don't want to get in the way of them creating, because I might have an idea of what I think the final edit should be, but they're going to do what they do best. And it's funny because none of the families know what they're getting beforehand. You can pose your kid as Batman or Superman, you're pretty sure what you're going to get. But when you have Wednesday Adams, you don't know what's going to happen. So our artist had I don't know if it's a thing or something, I didn't really watch Adams Family, but he's got the hand in the photo.
Yeah.
And the thing I always think about is like Luke, the St. Louis baseball player over my shoulder here. He lives in St. Louis. I think he's thrown out 2 first pitches at Busch Stadium, which is, if you're in the Midwest, the St. Louis Cardinals are the team. He was the chairman for their Homers for Health campaign last year, and his dad was telling me when little 8-year-old Luke was up at the podium on the little the apple box talking to people, he was going from his notes, and his dad said he reached in there to try to help him. Luke was like, "Nah, get away, I got this." It's like he's speaking in front of 100 people at this big fundraiser. He's like, "No, I got this." So it's just, to meet these kids, it's amazing. Um, Another good one is Charlie, she's over my shoulder there. She's the one that's touching her canvas. Charlie is blind. So when we asked her mom what Charlie likes, she said colors, galaxy, and funky. So we're like, okay, Charlie's blind, but how does she like colors? And it's like, it doesn't matter. She said she likes colors. So what we did is, after the canvas was done, we had an artist paint with whatever they paint with. I don't know if it was acrylics or what, but they painted a little bit on there. So around the moon and around her shirt. So what Charlie's doing in that picture from her mom is she's feeling that.
Mm.
If we just give her a flat canvas, all she feels is a flat canvas, but Charlie is moving her hand around the photo, and mom is telling her, that's your shirt, those are your glasses, that's the moon. And it kind of reminds me of what was the movie Mask, when you're trying to show the colors with the rock and the clouds and everything back from there. And it's just, whatever we can do for these kids. Tristan, who is looks like Buzz Lightyear up in the corner there. His mom told me we didn't get to photograph him for about a year from just schedule changes, and he's in Pittsburgh here. Uh, she said that he might not be real sociable. Well, he was more sociable than I am, and he was awesome. He had this helmet that came down. Some of these kids have these really awesome costumes. Girl in Georgia we photographed, she had a NASA costume. She wants to be an astronaut, and she was just awesome. It was pretty realistic costume.
That's great. And I'm just wondering, some of and it might be a question that other people are wondering who are listening and watching. What made you want to do this?
So when we lived in Delaware, it's probably about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I was photographed, just volunteer photographing a Make-A-Wish event. And the woman who spoke, she was probably in her early to mid 30s, and she described herself as a total beach girl. She grew up in Miami Beach, and she was granted her wish when she was, I think, 14. Her wish as a Miami Beach girl, of course, was to go snow skiing. She had never seen snow, never been around snow. So Make-A-Wish got them, the way I remember it, like a little chalet halfway up the mountain. They skied out in the morning, skied in at night. And she said, for that week, I was not sick. And I said, holy crap, I got to be able to do something as a photographer that can, and so many families have said, that can distract these kids, that can distract the families, if just for a little bit, where it just takes them away from that normal that they have. And to get back to Luke, if Luke becomes a baseball player, I'll be tracking him. If he becomes a baseball player, the tears of joy are going to go wild. But if for somehow he becomes a St. Louis Cardinal, how cool is that going to be? But like Dorian, he's Batman up there in the picture. He's probably not going to grow up to be Batman, but what if when he's 25 or 30, he dresses up like Batman and he goes and visits kids with cancer like he was, because he sees his picture as Batman every day and he remembers that was kind of cool. We did it either the day before or after his birthday, and we got him a Batman cake. Somebody I put out on Facebook, and I said, I need somebody who can make me a Batman cake. Let me know how much it'll be. The woman who did it for free. That's another thing I always try to do. And for others out there, I always try to ask, what would it cost for this? This is why I want to do this. And then if you want to donate it, great. If not, then I can go back to the board if it's above the amount that I'm allowed to spend without consulting them. But so many, especially as a photographer, you're asked a lot to do things for free, and sometimes I will. If I like what the cause is, or if I'm bored and I want to try to photograph something. But it's just that's where, going back to your question, the Make-A-Wish event, that inspired me to try to figure out something. And then what I did was I took some stock videos and I started showing them to, I just made a little voiceover and said, this is what I want to do. And I couldn't show it publicly because these kids and families didn't get permission to be promoted as a cancer charity. But the people in the photography industry that I know, they were like, let us know what you want. I said, this is what I need to get this going. And so we started doing it. And in 3 years, it's going to be whatever it needs to be. And that's okay. I'm kind of along for the ride now, but we've changed things already a few times. Like we're going to start offering the photos to kids we don't photograph. And the reason we like to photograph the kids, it's part of the experience. But we can't give that experience right now. So let's try to reach some families that will hopefully get the word out through them and what we do for them. And maybe when this is all over, hopefully soon, we can get out and we will be ready to go to photograph those families that we can photograph in person with the proper lighting, with the proper experience. So we been, going back to the print thing, when my mom passed away a few years ago, my brother and I looked through old crappy photos, these two big thick photo albums. We looked through them for 8 hours the first night, for 9 hours the second night, and just talking and telling stories. If somebody passed away now and these are all the photos you have, you're going to sit there for 3 minutes and get bored. But those old crappy underexposed, overexposed photos, they're gold. And I was actually thinking recently, because I've seen there's a retro Evel Knievel, the little wind up thing. I don't know if you remember that. I think I'm a little older than you, but that was one of my favorite toys ever. And I saw it on Facebook last week that's back now. That's a toy. And that, I think I'm going to be going through my old photos and posting pictures of me with my favorite toys, just because it's, the retro stuff is fun sometimes.
Yeah, that's just great stuff. It's very inspiring. And what I notice, behind you on all those photos, there are these kids that, are going through all this tragedy and things of that nature, and they all have smiles on their face. And, that has to make you feel good. And we want to expose you more to other people. And I think really what you want too are other families that you can do this for, right?
Absolutely.
Understand it correctly. So how can people get in touch with you, and is there anything they can do to contribute?
They can find us pretty much anywhere. We are at somanyangels.org. We are on Facebook. We're on Twitter now. Twitter's not big, but that's kind of where we're going to be getting a lot of our artists from. So we're building up that presence. We are going to have some streamers do some online fundraising the last 2 weeks of September, which is Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. So we're looking forward to that, because the streamers, it's a little bit younger generation than me, but like your daughter Faith, she's the kind of person that gives me hope for the future. When you see so many bad stories about kids, in the basement, not doing anything, I'm like, these are the kids, these streamers that only play video games. There's a group of streamers that raised over $6 million this year for St. Jude. And they've got some big sponsors, and they've got some awesome community and awesome following that they want to help. And that's what's cool. And if you want to help so many angels, you can pass our information along to a family that has a kid with cancer. Pass it along to a family that has lost a child to cancer. We will photograph we'll do this up to, the older kids don't really want to be involved with this too much. So we are looking for older kids we'll go up to age probably 21 with that, because the cancers that the kids have are different a lot of times than the adult cancers. And the funding for the pediatric cancer research is I think the last thing I saw was 4% of the research budget. And that's not enough. I mean, these kids, like I said, these kids want to dress as doctors and nurses. And I've read tons of stories lately where, the kids that went through cancer and survived, now becoming doctors and nurses and helping out kids like they were. And they just want to help and get involved. Donations can be made through the website, through Facebook. Facebook is still awesome because they do not take any processing fees. As of this date right now, they don't take any processing fees. So everything you send through Facebook comes directly to us. Some people don't like the fact that it takes 2 weeks, I think, for the money to get through to the charity donating through Facebook, but that's okay. It would take a week or so to get a check, so that's okay. But yeah, just if anybody is willing to spread the word, we're not doing any events in person. We will be looking for volunteers once we start that up again. This was going to be our big year, like so many people. 2020 was going to be our breakout year. But what we've decided to do is pull back and do it more of a regional charity for now, except when I travel for photo conferences, meaning Pittsburgh, maybe Cleveland, Columbus, maybe Indy, but DC, Baltimore, just within maybe 3, 4, 5 hours of Pittsburgh. And what our plans were this year was to, every 3 months, find a charity in those cities and photograph the kids. If the parents couldn't make it, then we're coming back in 3 months. So we come back every 3 months. So then hopefully that momentum would build. We get more recognition, getting more families coming in. And unfortunately, there's always new diagnosis, kids just getting diagnosed, which the families' worlds would turn upside down. So many kids we photograph, they break their leg. That's how they find out they have cancer. They're riding a bike and fall off and break their arm. And it's so scary. And it's, I don't have kids. I'm not sure if I could do this if I had kids. And, for a while I was wondering, hey, I'd be a good dad. But now that I don't have kids, I'm like, okay, this is why. Because if I would have had kids, maybe this doesn't happen. So now I've got a bunch of kids. And it's kind of cool.
That's great. And I really appreciate you sharing today, Matt. Again, SoManyAngels.org. Hopefully we can have you back on the show again, Matt, because what you do, you've just inspired me today. That
would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, got the attention off of me. Hopefully gets it off of ourselves when people listen and watch this, and really hope you can come back on the show and really inspire us again down the road when we need it, especially if we're going to be going through COVID a little bit longer.
I'll raise my hand here. One more quick story. We had a family that was triplet girls and their older brother. And we photographed them once, and then we did the canvas reveal for them. They were 15 minutes early for both of those sessions. Okay. 3 kids, 3 kids. One of the girls had passed away before. So 3 kids. So you people that have kids that can't get places on time, I'm calling out to you. These 3 kids and their mom and dad were there early, both times, 15 minutes. And that was one of the families I was speaking with yesterday about wanting to offer this to families who have lost kids. And, I said, they inspire me every day when I'm late for a meeting. If I'm, I try to be way early. I need to communicate better on that sometimes, as you know. But yeah, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of what I want to see. It's one of the things I always tell people is be your own biggest fan. If you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be hard to get other people to do it. But the other thing I say is stop justing. What do you do? It's big in photography. It's like, oh, what do you do? No, I just shoot families, or I just shoot plants and animals. No, stop justing. Or one that drives me nuts, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Okay, there's a lot of people that finding out what that really means these days.
Yeah.
Which, for good or for bad, it's like that's not a just. It's so stop justing. I'm done.
Okay, that was good to end with. I appreciate that. But that's all for today, folks. Really appreciate you watching and listening. Go ahead down there and give us a like, a subscribe. You can get to our YouTube channel, Center for Victory. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Eric.